Welcome to EyE on You. Since the promulgation of the Outline Development Plan of the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macau Greater Bay Area in 2019, the development of the Greater Bay Area has taken substantial steps, and the development of the legal and dispute resolution services also contributed to the progress in the building of the rule of law in the Greater Bay Area. The Hong Kong government should follow the guiding direction in the Outline Development Plan and leverage the distinctive advantage of Hong Kong's legal system under the One Country, Two Systems principle, and proactively take forward the development of the Greater Bay Area and assist legal and dispute resolutions and other professional sectors to strive for policy innovations and breakthroughs that are needed for exploring the opportunities.
To assist Hong Kong's legal and dispute resolution services sector in seizing the opportunity in the development of the GBA, the Hong Kong government has been striving for more liberalization measures. It is our great honor today to invite the Secretary for Justice, Ms. Teresa Cheng SC, to tell us the latest development of the Hong Kong legal and dispute resolution services in the GBA and the latest work on developing Hong Kong as the capacity building center for the GBA and the proposed measure, especially for youth and to nurture legal talents within the Greater Bay Area. Hello, welcome Teresa.
Hello.
Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much, Eunice. Thank you very much, Edward.
Thank
Yes, as to show our support to the GBA policies, me, myself, and over 600 solicitors and barristers has joined the first cohort of the GBA legal exam this year. So we are very eager to know what opportunities ahead if we pass the exam.
Eunice, I'm very pleased that you have taken the step to learn as well as to take the exam. We need to try and encourage more of our Hong Kong lawyers to be able to practice in the Greater Bay Area. And I think with the support of the Ministry of Justice, we are very, very fortunate to be able to achieve that. Now, the opportunities that would arise, I think, is immense. If you think about the investments that are being attracted into the Greater Bay Area, the number of population has grown just in the last 1 to 2 years, and it shows that people are therefore moving there for work and for investment. Right. And businesses will need legal support. And if the Hong Kong lawyer is able to also provide PRC legal advice in the Greater Bay Area, companies that are there will be able to use our services, not just from the perspective of the PRC angle, PRC law angle, but also from the common law angle. And therefore, the opportunities, the scope of business will enlarge. For the individual, like your good self is concerned, for example, you will have learned a lot more about not just the common law, but also the civil law system and the PRC law system. And you would have therefore enhanced your knowledge and ability. And if I then move to the next step, if there are disputes about the business transactions in the Greater Bay Area, the fact that you are trained in common law, but also be able to practice the PRC law, will be able to provide dispute resolution services. Because with those two areas of law being in your knowledge, you'll be able to address and deal with those issues a lot easier. So I think this is the first step, but I think it's a very long and wide road that we will be able to explore.
Yes, after we have taken the exam, we have a wider perspective on learning, on knowing, or to understand the Chinese perspective and the Chinese constitution, and also what's going on in China.
Indeed, I understand that the course that the Ministry of Justice provides is actually very comprehensive, from the constitutional angle to the commercial angle. Right. And let me just give you a little bit, encourage you a little bit more. I'm sure you'll pass, Eunice. I look forward to celebrating with you.
Thank you.
But after the passing of that, the next thing, of course, people will need to know, well, how am I going to be able to get my practicing certificate? And will I be able, because one of the areas of practice is that you'll be able to also conduct certain litigations in civil and commercial matters in the mainland, in the Greater Bay Area. So we are working with the Ministry of Justice in Guangdong to see how we're going to ensure that those who pass will be able to get their practicing certificate after certain training. And it's already greatly reduced from the existing system for the whole of China. Yeah. And so therefore we hope that you'll be able to pick up the practicing certs quickly. And we have also done something, and this is part of the agreements we've reached with the Supreme People's Court. With their support, we are working on trying to get the Supreme People's Court support and the Guangdong courts and maybe the Shenzhen courts, but in the Greater Bay Area. The courts are going to give us the judiciary is going to give us some training that will help us to actually implement our knowledge. And so that's something that I think is very unique and very special for our candidates. And once that's done, I'm hoping we will still have to work out the details, because ultimately is where you're going to be able to practice. We're hoping to do some matchmaking work with the law firms in China and the Hong Kong lawyers, and see whether they could work out something that they can work together to create a win-win situation. And my own experience, having worked with PRC lawyers in the past, is that they will be able to also learn very quickly how the common law way of thinking is, and therefore be able to expand also their experience and knowledge.
We have close cooperation between Hong Kong and mainland, especially the Qianhai, and there is an initiative to allow wholly owned Hong Kong enterprise to adopt Hong Kong law. Can you tell us the implementation and the wider application of Hong Kong law in Qianhai?
We are very fortunate, I think a year or so ago, that Qianhai has promulgated certain rules that allow a Hong Kong enterprise to actually adopt Hong Kong law as the governing law for their contracts. And that, I think, is a very important feature for Hong Kong enterprises, companies who are based in Hong Kong with investment in mainland China. And it's therefore a Chinese firm in the Qianhai area, but it's dealing with another Chinese company, and entirely what we call without the foreign related element. So without foreign related element, people cannot just choose Hong Kong law. But because it's a Hong Kong enterprise registered in China, they are now already able to adopt Hong Kong law as the governing law. Now, having already have that, we've heard the very great possibility that Qianhai area is going to be enlarged. We've heard that from various reports, including the 2035 vision and as well as the 14th five-year plan and various speeches from the leaders. So when Qianhai enlarges in its geographic area, naturally it will cover more than the current 11,000 Hong Kong firms that are Hong Kong enterprises that are now registered in Qianhai. So we hope that will already allow more of the Hong Kong enterprises to use Hong Kong law. Insofar as we are concerned, in the Department of Justice, we hope to enlarge it even further. But I think things will have to go step by step. So we're hoping to encourage the central authorities as well as the Greater Bay Area leaders to allow this particular theme, which already has shown to be working, to enlarge into first Shenzhen, which is a very big business area, and ultimately to the Greater Bay Area, because this is not just beneficial to Hong Kong lawyers, as some may think. It's actually beneficial to the companies using Hong Kong as a platform to invest into the Greater Bay Area. So in a way, it is actually enhancing the theme of enlarging the investment in Greater Bay Area, and therefore it's part of the national policy. We hope by that it's not just benefiting Hong Kong lawyers, but also ensuring that the Greater Bay Area theme is going to be enhanced and improved and fully implemented.
Talk about the DOJ training to nurture the talents within DOJ. Is there any programs in the DOJ which can expand their horizons for international perspective?
You will be hearing the publication of the news in a few weeks' time, is that we've reached agreements with 3 major international organizations, and they are the 3 main bodies who deal with private international law. The Hague Conference on Private International Law, the UNCITRAL, the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, and UNIDRA, that is the body that is dealing with unification of laws and systems for the whole of the world. Now, UNCITRAL, UNIDRA, and the Hague Conference, we have reached agreement of that with them so that Hong Kong government lawyers as well as private lawyers will be able to get secondment opportunities to work in these three bodies. Now, it's a very exciting, not just to learn the law. The Hague Conference is in The Hague in the Netherlands, UNCITRAL is in Vienna in Austria, and UNIDRA is in Rome, Italy. And you can see that the exposure that our young people will be able to get is not just broad in the area of law, but we also hope to allow them to see different parts of the world and therefore enhance their international perspective. So yes, we are already getting that along the way. We've actually already selected the candidates. With a few more steps, their secondment arrangements will be confirmed, and we hope to bring that out to the public very soon. And may I say, using this opportunity, to thank the central authorities for supporting that, because these are international bodies and we have to have the help of the central government to make the arrangements at the national level, and then allowing Hong Kong to have this very unique treatment for public lawyers, that is in the government, in the DOJ, and also for private lawyers.
So what is the selection criteria for the candidates who are chosen to go to this
We
program?
have a paper application, and then we'll choose people to come and interview. I think the criteria mainly is people who are, first of all, knowledgeable in this particular area, but of course not experts. After all, we're young lawyers, who will then not just to go and learn, but actually to contribute to the development of private international law. Now, that is very important. And of course, through that, we will then be able to also let the world know what our lawyers, what Hong Kong lawyers are like in both the public and the private sectors. And for the young people, we hope that through the training and the projects that are being conducted, they'll be able to learn something. And when they come back to Hong Kong, they will then be able to contribute to the development of Hong Kong's legal sector.
Yes, I'm sure that they will share their successful story of our one country, two systems.
Exactly. They are the ambassadors of Hong Kong.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about the Young Professionals Overseas Enrichment Program and the Pilot Professional Exchange Program? How can the young professionals benefit from these programs, and what are the differences between the two programs?
The enrichment program, the Young Enrichment Program, actually is part of our Vision 2030 initiatives. So we want to encourage more young people to partake in the international conferences. And of course, they don't have the opportunity to be a speaker yet, but at least we want to send them to go and participate in these conferences as an audience, and they'll be able to learn. And having done that, when they come back, they will be able to share their experience, as you said, Eunice, and share what they have learned to the local people as well. Now, government is paying for the transport and the accommodation and the registration fee so that more young people will be able to go abroad to these conferences. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we haven't been able to send people abroad. I want more young people to be able to have a broader perspective, an international perspective. So that's the enrichment program, and that's something under our Vision 2030. The pilot exchange program is also something that was introduced, I think, back in 2019. It sort of emanated in this way. I came from the private sector to join the Department of Justice. I feel it would be very useful to the legal sector and also indeed to the government of Hong Kong for the private sector to understand how the public sector looks at the problem, and the public sector how the private sector is expecting things to be done. We created this exchange idea so that the private sector can send somebody to work in the Department of Justice, and then in exchange, the government will send certain people out in the private sector to learn, but also to see how the private sector is expecting things to be done. So this is a two-way exercise, and we've started it, but I really hope that more can participate in this program, and I hope that this will be fully utilized and enhance our growth. So by talking to the private sector, they'll see that's something that they really need addressed, rather than perhaps just thinking internally within the government. So that sort of exchange is something I wish to implement further.
The Hong Kong legal practitioners, including the barristers, are benefited from the CEPA agreements. So how are these policies attracting more Hong Kong lawyers to set up law firms in the Greater Bay Area? And what other measures are there to provide incentives for the local legal practitioners to explore opportunities in the Greater Bay Area?
Through the CEPA, a lot of doors have been opened. Law firms, first of all, for example, solicitors and their law firms, they are now able to set up partnership associations with another mainland law firm. Now that will allow them to work as a law firm that has the specialties of both PRC as well as Hong Kong law, and of course the clientele would be broader. We've worked to encourage a lowering of the investment of the Hong Kong law firms in response to the requests from the local sector here. And that has been achieved, and we're hoping that will develop further. For the barristers, they have been able to join as a legal consultant to a PRC law firm. And going back to the Greater Bay Area exam that we were talking about, when the individual is qualified, he'll be able to join a PRC law firm or a partnership association.
What will the DOJ do or the government do to nurture more talent in this field for dispute resolutions, to train more arbitrators, mediators, and negotiators?
Yes, indeed. I think soft power talents are actually a very important area for any development in any particular profession. So yes, we're working very hard to provide that. And Hong Kong's position as an international dispute resolution center, I think, can be sort of understood in three very major pillars. One is our infrastructure, the legal infrastructure. The second is the talent, and the third is the business opportunities. The business opportunities primarily actually nowadays is the China market. The Greater Bay Area in particular provides a lot of business opportunities. So therefore, in terms of the infrastructure, we want to maintain it and keep it strong and robust. Our rule of law, our up-to-date arbitration law, our mediation ordinance, our apology ordinance, all these are very solid legal infrastructure, and of course a very strong independent judiciary. Insofar as talent is concerned, we need to encourage more people to learn the areas. I mean, arbitration, mediation, negotiation, they are skills that you have to learn. Of course, there are some who are better and so on, but you still need to acquire those knowledge. And in Hong Kong, we have a number of organizations that provide for that. And so we're continuously building up the talent. But we need to also actually put them into use. So in particular, the Greater Bay Area. So what has happened is that we've three legal bodies, that is the Department of Justice, the equivalent in Macau and the equivalent in Guangdong. We have set up a joint committee that looks at developments, opportunities in a number of these legal areas. The first is in mediation, and we're hoping to be able to come to some sort of conclusion about how we're going to merge but also diversify, where you get the good things together but allowing the three jurisdictions to be able to develop their own specialties. And I think in the mediation platform that we're working on, we're hoping there'll be some very good results. Now that will provide another bigger area for our mediation practitioners to practice. So it's not just in Hong Kong, but hopefully some of the Greater Bay Area disputes. For arbitration, that will be our next look at the Greater Bay Area. And of course, whilst you're learning mediation, you learn negotiation skills. And here it may be useful also to mention that under one of our government policy of developing law tech, we have encouraged the setting up of an ODR platform, online dispute resolution platform, the eBRAM. And under their scheme of the COVID-19, which it's in place, I believe they actually have e-negotiation, e-mediation, and e-arbitration. And I think those are areas which are smaller disputes and where people can actually practice and start to develop. Other areas would be the one that I talked about a lot, but because it's very important, is the interim measure arrangement with mainland China, putting Hong Kong as the only jurisdiction outside mainland where if you arbitrate here, you'll be able to go and apply for interim measures before mainland courts. So we have been doing all this, and that can never be the end. We can always be better. So we're exploring all sorts of opportunities. One of that is already the third-party funding. If you remember, that was in place a few 2-3 years ago. So all sorts of opportunities. But I would like to hear from you. What do you think we can do in these sort of areas? Anything you can think of maybe we should pursue?
In my opinion, maybe reaching out to different parties or different groups and organizations to promote all the good news. And we are very happy to promote it with you.
Can I take it that you're inviting me back?
Yes, of course. Of course. If you don't mind.
To. No, I would love
you.
to. I very much appreciate your invitation here to share these. And it's very important for what we've been doing to be carried through to the community. We in Hong Kong as the legal sector must continuously to appreciate the arrangements that we have been put in place, and of course to continue to gain the trust of the central authorities in order for these measures to be sustainably continued and developed.
Yes, one of the recommendations I will be given to the government that we want to use the mediation or the negotiations on the community levels. That we want like every district, they have their own centers, mediation centers to help the community and to improve their livelihood and actually to minimize the use of courts. I really do hope the government can consider our recommendations.
Good. I think, Eunice, you and I and us in the Department of Justice are clearly of the same view. Another thing riding on what you've said is the West Kowloon Mediation Center.
Yes.
We have been putting that on pilot scheme, and it's coming to an end in terms of the pilot scheme. So we need to see how we're going to make it a permanent feature in the sector. Now, of course, the West Kowloon Mediation Center is now primarily dealing with the small claims tribunal within the judicial system. I think that we can reinforce, and through that, other community dispute resolution or mediation centers can be used. And you are absolutely right. If people adopt mediation more as a mechanism by which their conflicts and differences are dealt with, the society would be even more inclusive and even more harmonized, and everybody would be so much happier. So, you know, when something, as a lawyer, I always say try and avoid the courts. Yes. But the best way is to resolve the differences as early as possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Teresa, for coming to our show today.
Thank you. Thank you, Eunice. Thank you, Edward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.